So I'm here today with my good friend, Jeremy Pons. He is a nutritionist, a licensed nutritionist in Lexington, and has his own business called Path of Life Nutrition. Jeremy is amazing. He's been a great resource to me and my family, and I have thoroughly enjoyed working with him over the last 5 years. I'm so excited to have him here today so that I can share with you some of the knowledge and some of the tips that I have gleaned from him over the years so that you too can help make your lives better than where they are today. So welcome back. I am so excited to be here today with my good friend and mentor, Jeremy Pons. He is a nutritionist that I have worked with for the last 5 years, working with our family, trying to get us into a healthy spot. And I have so much to owe to him to just getting us to where we are today. I'm grateful that he could be here with me today so we could answer some questions, kind of unlock this mystery around nutrition, why it matters, how to even navigate it, and what to do in our own families, and ways to take small steps so that we can start making changes that actually impact our lives. So, Jeremy, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to conversation. Yeah,
me too. Well, I'm just thrilled that we could have this chance to sit down. You have taught me so much over the years, and I'm grateful to now share your wisdom with others who are out there, so that you can really be a beacon of light to those who are struggling. And goodness knows that's exactly where my family was too for a long time. And even still on this journey, and you're still working with me, so I am grateful
so many,
for that.
So many, and we all have a journey, Right?
Yeah.
Nobody gets from A to Z in one step.
No,
so it's just
for sure
about
not.
like one piece at a time.
Yes, absolutely, and that's exactly what we've had to do too. Is just take one piece at a time. So, can you tell me a little bit, like, as far as nutrition goes? We all hear this buzzword, right? We hear this word nutrition. And we all think, great, that just means that we need to have a better diet, we need to have better exercise, but unpack it a little bit for me of why nutrition is such an integral part of our lives, what that means for us as a society, and how do we go about looking at nutrition other than just maybe something that we were taught when we were younger, like the food pyramid or something along those lines.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think intuitively, all of us know that we need to be fed, right? And the sort of one of the most basic things as a baby is you start crying because you're hungry, know, and so all of us want to eat.
That makes sense.
And as you grow, then your sort of knowledge and awareness of what you want to eat, what you like to eat, comes into play. And then maybe as you get older, also this awareness or thought about, well, what should I eat? What should I consume? And I think that, in order to kind of unpack that, we need to think about, like, what is nutrition, and what do people think nutrition is? And I want to kind of unpack that for a second, but then also dive in maybe in a second to what I think nutrition is. And so when we think about nutrition, most people are thinking about what type of food should I eat? What ratios of foods should I eat? What macros? And I think in this country, I think one of the things that is a little bit of a challenge is that we've sort of micro defined it. We have parsed it out in 100 ways, and we've got people who dedicate their entire lives to researching what is the best perfect ratio of this thing or that thing. What does this nutrient do? What does this food do? What does this, if I eat this way for this amount of time, what is that going to help me to do? And I think the goal is, if people are thinking about nutrition, I think at the back of their minds they're thinking, how can I be the best version of myself health-wise, right? And for some people it's as simple as, I want to have lots of energy, or I want to be at a certain weight, or I want to do a certain thing, like be the best football player or whatever. And then that takes us down different roads to what nutrition is. But I think with that, and because of our culture, there's also a lot of confusion.
Absolutely.
And
so much confusion.
Right. So you think about the food pyramid, that's one big piece. But then you've also got the different iterations. We've had probably 50 years of this process of working through, this concept of, you need to eat this amount of carbs or grains or whatever, and this amount of proteins and meats, and this amount of dairy, and all these different food groups and things in that. And then inevitably you've had in that process competing interests, people who are saying, well, I want more of this thing represented in the food pyramid. So maybe you've got the Corn Alliance or whatever farmers going, I want more grains in there. And then the dairy farmers are going, no, I want more dairy in there. And so you've had that going along hand in hand for decades with the science, so that you end up with sort of two things happening. One, where the numbers have changed over the years because of the science.
Right.
And then also, unfortunately, numbers have changed over the years because one competing interest will get above another, and then someone will get their edge in the door, and then their recommendations ended up taking precedence.
Gotcha.
And then you have people coming back years later going, wait, maybe that wasn't research-based, and now we're pivoting again, and then pivoting again. And so I think that whole world, probably more than most areas of science, has made it to where nutrition feels confusing to the average person.
Very.
And how do we navigate?
Right. Well, and that's actually a great question. So you have all this conflicting information out there. Like, we have what we were taught. We have things that we were told were based in science.
Right.
We have industries that are influencing our decisions. Where does somebody start from like a parental perspective? How do you know that what you're giving your kids is adequate enough, but not too much, and not necessarily following one of the trends?
Right. Well, so I think there's two or three ways you can go about that. I think there is what would be considered the modern way of going about it, and then what I would consider the wise way of going about it.
Okay.
And
interested to hear about this.
Yeah, so they don't necessarily match. So the modern way of going about it is we're going to really micromanage and look at all the different things about whether you're using my pyramid or using the healthy plate method, or you're using one of these methods, and then you're working that into, okay, so today I need to make sure my child checks off the box and they're getting just the right amount of carbs and just the right amount of grains, and just make sure they get their dairy and their calcium foods today, and make sure they get their fiber, and make sure they drink enough water, and like check the box on all the things. And oh my goodness, now they're not eating enough here, so now we need to go and figure out why they're not eating right. And I've got kids who are picky eaters who are like, nope, today I don't feel like eating my vegetables and fruits, right?
I know that feeling.
Any of you maybe feel that way, right? And so as a parent, you're constantly feeling like you're playing whack-a-mole.
For real.
Of going, oh, well, this one ate well today, but that one's not. Okay, but what about tomorrow? And now we've got another set of, now this one's sick. And then there's this revolving door of things. And the modern way is, let's just keep getting more and more detailed and micromanage all the pieces.
Right.
Because my doctor said I need to do this, the pediatrician said I need to do this, my nutritionist said I need to do this, and that's me, right? And so we're giving people all these rules and guidelines.
Right.
And it can feel frantic, and it can feel stressful, and it can feel overwhelming. And like you end up kind of running in circles. And so is there some science behind it? Absolutely. Right.
Sure.
There's science behind going, your child needs to meet certain recommendations for vitamin D and for iron and for calcium and things like that, because that's what's going to help promote a healthy body. And we have very good science to tell you what those numbers should be. And that science has stood the test of time. But I think where it breaks down is, how do you actually put it into practice?
Exactly.
And it can get very difficult as a parent. If I think about stepping back for a minute and go, well, what's the wise way to do it? Is if you put a child in an environment of a home where good food is available, and you not necessarily micromanaging it, but you say, I'm going to provide healthy foods. I'm not going to maybe stock the pantry with Twinkies and candy bars and things like that. Right. But I'm going to provide these other things in a framework. Kids, much more than adults, are intuitive about eating. Now, that doesn't always work out perfectly, because some kids are going to have digestive issues where they just don't have an appetite. However, most of the time in a given week, a child is going to meet the needs that they need to eat the adequate amount of food. So then your job as a parent is, within that framework, to go, okay, I'm going to make sure there's available to them these big deal foods, proteins, and foods for energy, and vitamin D sources, and calcium sources, and iron foods, and things like that, and then give them a little leeway, because a child might eat just a peanut butter and jelly sandwich today, but then tomorrow they may eat 3 entire helpings of like a baked ziti or something, right? So And
Yep,
as parents, we need to
absolutely.
be able to give each other permission to go, that's okay, right?
Yeah,
Because a child will intuitively eat more or less on certain days. Adults are the ones who unfortunately think we've got to regiment this thing like it's some
right,
strict guideline.
right.
So the wisdom is stepping back and going, how can I promote the growth of a child and their well-being, but within a big framework and not in micromanaging every detail?
Hmm. I love that idea. Almost looking at it like a big picture thing
Yeah.
and not getting so bogged down in the details
Mm-hmm.
that you get lost in the weeds.
Right.
Because I know for me, and I don't know if you guys feel this way too, but it's hard as a mom
Mm.
to feel like you're able to check off all the boxes
Yeah.
and to do all
Yeah.
the things
Yeah.
and to do them all well
Oh yeah.
every single day. And so if I could take the stress out of feeling like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not adequately giving my child enough nutrition, or he or she is not eating enough or
Mm-hmm.
getting all of the different pieces, that would be really nice as from a mom's perspective of
Yeah.
being like,
Sure.
finally, like I don't have to worry about this because I can look at it more of a big picture thing instead of micromanaging every single detail. And as a side note to that, like something else I've always been worried about is this idea of having a healthy relationship to food.
Yes.
And so I've seen all these issues come about over the last decade of working in this world of nutrition and kids and allergies and all of the things that we have to deal with in our family. I'm really concerned about my son and particularly not having a healthy relationship with food. How do you make sure that with all of that conflicting information that can be overwhelming, but I love that idea of taking a step back, but how do you make sure that your child or you have that healthy relationship with food so that you're not having eating disorders or having these mental breakdowns as an adult of thinking, oh gosh, that's bad or that's good or I don't have enough of this. Like you end up carrying that stress, I feel like, from childhood even into adulthood. So how would you navigate that?
Well, that's a great question. And I think there's sort of there's a couple of factors happening in this, and I would say there's a couple of different categories of people that unfortunately can move into the same space as they get older, and that's the hard part. That's the part you want to avoid. And so the first is there's what I would call the bigger issue in America, which is diet culture.
Yes,
Diet culture is huge, and it's a culture that has been so obsessed with eating the right thing and eating the right amount and not overeating, whatever that definition of overeating is to them,
right.
combined with I need my body to look a certain way. And I've been told that if I have this shape, I'm not okay. And if I have this shape, I am okay. And so in order to get from this shape to this shape, I'm going to use food as a tool to get me there, manipulating, control those factors. And then overlaying that, sadly, in many families is multiple decades. Like there's probably 40 to, I'd say probably about 50 years right now, because that's kind of got really popular more in the 70s and forward.
Definitely.
If you were to go back to the 50s, for example, and you look at what was the quote unquote ideal models or body shapes, it was actually a much more full rounded, what I would say healthy looking person, you know, and even, and not to get into, you know, the weeds too much, but like if you were to look at the pictures of Marilyn Monroe and then you know, sadly, because this is what they do with models, you could actually look up her measurements because they do this, right? It's terrible. But if you did look up her measurements, you would hear it and go, wow, that's nothing like modern women, and that her quote unquote ideal was a much fuller figured person. So then that changed starting in the 70s, and what I would call the thin model became the ideal. And we're still hanging on to that. It's starting to go away, thankfully, but there's still a lot of that. So the sad part that's going to come into that is mothers and grandmothers.
Exactly.
And I see it a lot. A lot of our clients who come in will say, you know, I'm trying to do this and this and this to repair my relationship with food, but all I'm hearing in my ear is my mother saying, well, you shouldn't be eating that much, or you need to do fill in the blank. And so that part of the bigger diet culture is a real struggle, and there are solutions to it, but the solution is not what is not really encouraged in this culture, in that our culture encourages us to look selfishly, look at ourselves more and more and more, whether it's social media or whether it's, you know, messages from people or messages from media or whatever.
Yeah.
The point that everyone is focused on is at themselves. And then that creates an obsession, a micromanaging of everything. It's not just food, right? It's not just our what we eat. And so that part is, I'd say, as parents, the main thing we do is model healthy habits.
Yeah.
And so, for example, in our home where I have 6 daughters, right, and a wife, so there's 7 women who have grown up in this environment.
Right.
The overarching attitude we have towards food is that food is good, and food is nourishing, and food is to be enjoyed.
Right.
And we avoid talk about bodies. We avoid talk about shapes. We avoid talk about some talk about portions, but it's more like, did you get enough of your protein in that? You know, you don't have any protein with that. I think you're going to be hungry later. Let's put something on your plate, right?
Yeah, I like
but
that.
Not in the concept of restriction, but in the concept of abundance.
That's beautiful.
And then with that, the talk that we have around what I would call the things that we would consider restriction is not in the language of restriction. It's in the language of, you know, that dessert, we probably need to watch it because if you eat too much, it's going to upset your stomach, right? I'm focusing on functional things rather than physical shape things. And really, to be honest, I'm not worried about the physical shape thing, right? I'm like, if you feed someone a healthy diet, their body will become the shape it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
Which is a huge concept that in America we are told to fight against.
Right.
We're told,
oh my gosh, all the time.
Like you're told, don't trust the way God designed your body genetically. You need to conform your body to what culture says.
Right.
But people are all built different. Sure. Some people are naturally slim. Some people are naturally bigger. Some people are naturally muscular, and so on and so forth. And so your goal is to promote that person to become their best version of their adult selves. And so long and short of it is modeling. As parents, we should model good attitudes ourselves towards food so that we don't sit there and, you know, eat a piece of dessert and go, oh my gosh, I'm going to get so fat. Right. Language that's just not okay.
Exactly.
Not healthy. No. Right. Or man, okay, I got to stop because this is all going to my hips, you know, or something, 100 things we've all heard.
Right.
And then on the converse to model things like, wow, this food is amazing. Y'all need to try this. This is so good. And then to say things like, oh my goodness, that's wonderful. I am full and happy and I'm done for the right. Like, so to say like a healthy understanding of reconnecting hunger and satiety. We could do a whole podcast on that.
I bet.
Right. The hunger concept of something we've forgotten as a nation because we eat based on schedules, not hunger.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And we don't even recognize our own cues anymore because we're so fixed to a clock, or we have to rush through things because we're, you know, doing sporting events or whatever. So
and so because we're so tied to clocks and so tied to schedules that we've completely ignored the signal God gave our bodies on how to eat the right amount of food.
Yeah.
And that's actually the best way to eat if we could do it. And so modeling that as parents, modeling positive language, and then for the little ones, modeling consistency of like, oh yes, we're going to actually sit down together and eat a meal.
Yeah,
you can't run
There's
around.
A lot of power in that,
right? You're not allowed to just run around in 15 places and come back and keep coming back, right? Like kids who are between the ages of 2 and 5, that's their quote unquote ideal. They want to graze. They're just built that way, and it's that's part of that phase. Okay. And so as a parent, it can drive you crazy.
Yeah.
And so it's a constant redirection, like whack-a-mole. But ultimately, it's about like, can I put them in a situation where I go, hey, you're part of the family, you're part of the table, you're part of the meal. We're going to sit together, eat together as a family. Right. Let them see you eating. Yeah. Let them see that there's a model for this.
I love that.
And then teach that model over and over and over so that they become accustomed to the fact that this is the normal way people eat.
And it becomes familiar. And then it doesn't feel like it's such a stark difference from what we've always done.
And it's expectations. And so there's a lot of, when we look at pediatric nutrition, and we work a lot with picky eaters in our practice, there's a tension. There's always a tension between too much parental oversight with meals and too little.
Right.
Okay, so too much means I'm going to lock you in your chair. You're going to sit there. You're going to eat every last bite, and you don't get to touch it until you're until you finish it. Right? Whether you're hungry, whether you're full, doesn't matter. You're going to sit there and finish your food, and that's what we would consider more the rigid conforming, and that can create unhealthy patterns down the road.
Absolutely.
But then there is a structure part that also needs to be there, and so the what I would call the permissive side, where you have a parent who says, oh, there's the food. Just come eat when you're ready. Eat what you want. I'm just going to leave it out for you, and you come and do whatever you prefer. My experience as a parent and as a nutritionist is that doesn't work very well. Okay.
Same.
Right? Okay. And so to be honest with you, there are people, experts, what we would call them, in both camps and everything in between.
Got it.
Okay. And so you're going to hear different things from experts. So I think a part of this as parents is you've got to trust your intuition. You've got to trust your parenting. And if you're a believer, asking for some wisdom and guidance on what you should do in a situation, because it's going to vary by the child. And to be okay knowing that this child is different from that child is a big key. To give yourself some grace with that. And then in that whole picture, to create what I call healthy boundaries. This is the meal time. This is the meal place. This is your seat. This is your plate of food. These are the boundaries. And you have I'm going to give you the construct, and you have to sit here and eat what you're going to eat. I'm not going to force you to eat what's on that plate, but I'm not going to go cook you an alternate meal, right? Except under emergency situations where there's other things happening, right? But to ultimately let them understand there are boundaries of how and where and what we eat.
That's beautiful.
Because toddlers, quite frankly, would eat candy bars the rest of their lives if we let them. That's what they that is their preferred food. Right? And that's a message we hear in the world of nutrition and therapy all the time.
Right.
Let them eat their preferred foods. And I'm like, excuse me, as a parent, I know what their preferred food is. They want candy bars and sugar all day long.
All day long. As many carbs as possible.
Right. As many carbs. And carbs aren't even bad. It's just like the sugar, right? And so they can't eat non-nutritive food and expect to be healthy. And then all the things that come with eating non-nutritive food and what it does to your hormones and your blood sugar and the things it's going to create in a toddler where they can't control their emotions, and it's going to be very hard on them. So that's like the 80-90%. You guys are in the 10%. Okay. And maybe more or less, depending on what kind of allergies people are dealing with. So in a world of food allergies, there's unfortunately this necessary boundary that happens. Because you're now not looking at food preference, you're looking at food safety.
Right.
So can I create a healthy environment in a place where if my child eats the wrong thing, there might be anaphylaxis, and that's scary.
It's terrifying.
It's terrifying, and I think there's no perfect answer to this, because ultimately the child is going to have some level of a trepidation with food. If it's something that's a very severe allergy. I mean, people who have allergies, like I'll take celiac, right? That would be in the realm of, for most people, it's miserable, but it's not going to put them in the hospital. Right. So they eat it, they're going to know it, they're going to suffer a few days, and they can get back to their diet and they can begin to heal again. Right. When, of course, it's something like peanuts or dairy or some sort of anaphylactic thing, it can be very unnerving for everyone.
And life-threatening. I mean, like, people have died from this stuff. So it's like, how do you navigate that and make sure, again, that your child can have a healthy relationship to food when they've been brought up in an environment potentially of fear of these foods? Right.
And I think the answer is a lot of grace and conversations and talking through things, and also sort of helping them as they get older to create some level of confidence.
That makes sense.
Right. And to go, okay, I'm confident that I can navigate in these boundaries and not be afraid. And if I'm in this situation, like let's say they're at a restaurant, to become confident in their ability to navigate the hurdles. Where do I know I could eat, or where do I just have to go, no, I've got to stay away from that. And then to really encourage healthy relationships with all the other foods.
Absolutely.
The foods that they can eat. And so there's a tension there that you're going to unfortunately have to have. You can call it fear, and it kind of is, but it's like a healthy fear, like, I mean, I hate to use this analogy, but like, I'm afraid of a rattlesnake, right? Not because I hate snakes, but because I know this one's going to kill me. Right. And so kind of an understanding of I need to be alert,
That's
and
fair.
alertness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, the best case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
You work with that, and then you hope as a child grows that you can get them to become more confident in that situation, and not focus on the fear.
Right.
Because as a child, a lot of times that kind of looks like the only thing they're noticing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it takes time for that.
Absolutely. No, that makes so much sense. Well, and as you've talked about like this physical thing with nutrition, I know you've mentioned to me before that nutrition in general is so much more than just the foods and looking at what you're eating, the calorie counting, the
Right.
making sure that you're getting all of your macronutrients, all of your micronutrients, like all of those kind of things.
Right.
Can you explain to me, and maybe to our people who are listening too, like, can you explain to me a little bit about what nutrition means? I know you've mentioned the definition to me before, and you've talked about how it's actually a lot more than just what we're consuming every single day in the way of food.
Yeah. And so I think, again, it's like, there's nutrition as to what people have been taught.
Yep.
And in a culture where we've defined that term 100 ways and 100 directions, with great detail and a lot of obsessiveness, right? And it can get super micromanaging and super in the weeds. But I don't know how many people step back and ask themselves, well, what's the purpose, right? What is nutrition supposed to do?
Right.
Because it has a purpose. If it has no purpose, then why are we talking about it? And the answer is, nutrition is the things that nourish you. That is the definition of nutrition, that which nourishes you.
Right.
And so food on a physical level is a big piece of that. It gives you, nutrients to function, make all your organs function and your hormones function and all those things. It gives you caloric energy, actual energy. I mean, we can say all we want, but, you need energy to survive.
Kind of critical.
You must eat, right? You must eat to survive. You need something in your body to create energy in order to function. And, fasting is the lack of that, and that's okay for a small amount of time, but it's not going to keep you alive long term. And so, so that which nourishes you, and that means the foods that you're eating, where you get the macros and the micronutrients and all the things that come into creating that energy. But then it's also what you drink, like what kind of water and liquid your body starts out really high as a baby. People don't realize that it's like almost 80% as a baby, and it goes down as you get older. And as you get to be old, it's a lower percentage, and that's one of the things that aging. That's both a cause and a consequence of aging. Gotcha. Right. As your water content goes down, your body begins to die. And so hydration is literally life-giving. You can go, based on what we know about history and about people who've done it, your body can go about 40 days-ish without eating before you die.
Wow.
Okay, some people have gone up to 50 or 60.
That's more than I thought.
Yeah,
I thought it was just a couple weeks.
Right, it's a long way, long way. And we've seen, hunger strikes, we've seen people do 40, sometimes 50.
Wow.
Pushing 50 is pushing it.
I can only imagine. Oh
right.
My gosh.
We know Jesus fasted 40 days, so that's one example. Right. But water, you can't go more than about 3 days. Maybe 4, maybe 5 in the right situation. Right. So hydration and water is extremely crucial. You cannot survive without it. And that's a piece that some people are super focused on, and some people just never ever give it a thought. Right. So some people are like, oh my gosh, I only get the best, artesian water bought from the hills of France, shipped across the ocean, $5 a bottle. Right. It's just crazy. Right. And then there's the rest of us, people who are like, oh yeah, I get my water chlorinated out of the lake next door.
Yeah, right. And then there's that.
And there's this massive gap between those two that is of importance. And again, I could talk about water for hours, but like the quality of what you drink is important. Yeah. But then that's not the only thing that nourishes you. There's also the air you're breathing. There's the sun, the light itself is a nourishment. So light is crucial both for hormones and how they circulate. And that means like serotonin, melatonin, and all those things. But then also, people don't realize sunlight affects even blood sugar, insulin regulation. Gotcha. It affects, it is what creates vitamin D out of the conversion of something in your skin. But people don't realize it also the sunlight converts other hormones from cholesterol in your skin, right? So it's not just one thing, it's 100 things, it's 1,000 things. Sunlight is crucial to health. And so in the things that nourish you, you have to look at what is going into your body to help create health. That's what nutrition is. What is the things that nourishes you to create health? And so it's all this entirety of the things that go into you. And I would say, and as a believer, to me, the most important part is also what goes into your heart and your mind.
Right. That's, I think, equally as important, because you can have all of this taken care of physically, but if you're not okay up here, then you've missed a lot of things.
And it's so profound. We definitely would need to do several talks on what that looks like.
Okay? I know, we could go on and on.
Okay, but just to give you one little tiny snippet of something I see every day in clinical practice is that I'll have someone come in who has been doing all the things to eat right. Okay, and they're having digestive issues and incredibly, they're having everything from horrible, gas and bloating and constipation and diarrhea and all the things we don't like to talk about that are really uncomfortable. And I've gotten into their treatment plan, and we're working through the things, and they're having some level of impact in changing this type of fiber or that type of food, or working on gut bacteria. And then we get to the point about talking about their emotions and talking about their mindset. And all of a sudden you hear, and it's probably in IBS, it's 9 out of 10.
Really?
Okay. 9 out of 10. High. 9 out of 10 people that I work with IBS are under high levels of stress, high levels of emotional, I would call it emotional disturbance. So it could be grief, trauma, anger, frustration, whatever those things are. Things that are high emotions.
Right.
And we can do all the nutrition things, and they don't get better. They can improve, but they don't heal.
Right.
The minute we deal with the emotions, it's drastic differences overnight.
That's amazing.
Overnight. And so we tend to, again, we're the West, I'll call it the West versus the East, because that's not a perfect definition, but the Western scientific mindset is what is called reductionist. Which means it tries to take the entirety of a human and reduce it to the smallest set of factors possible, to go, if I give you this pill, voila, everything's better, right? You're just this moving machine. We just put this little thing in, the machine lines up.
Exactly.
Right? That's not really, we're not made that way.
No, way more complex than that.
We're not made that way. We are holistic people.
Right.
And holistic meaning that you are a person who has a person living in a body, who has a heart, a soul, and a spirit. Right? You cannot separate them. And if you try to separate them, you're going to miss a big piece of the puzzle. And so the nourishment of what goes into your heart and your mind is just as, I'd say, more important than actually what goes into you physically.
Wow.
And again, going back to the example we said earlier, when we talk about Jesus who fasted that 40-day span, that topic came up when he was being tested. Right? Satan literally said, hey, you're really hungry. You've been fasting all this time. Why don't you just take that rock right there and turn it into bread, and you could eat? And he was trying to tempt him to overcome his submission to the will of the Father, and to get him to violate the agreement that he and the Father had for this period of time.
Right.
And essentially to rebel. He wanted, because that's what he wants. He wants people to rebel. And it was some of the same temptations he gave Adam and Eve. But Jesus' answer was different. His answer was, man doesn't live by bread alone, but by every word that comes out of the mouth of the Most High. And so what he was essentially saying was, hey, a large part of your nourishment actually comes from the life-giving word that feeds your heart and your soul.
Right.
Those things can't be ignored. And I work with people in all walks of life, and I work with people who are believers, who are Christians, and people who are not. But even in those who don't yet understand that, what everyone understands intuitively is, if I feed my heart and my mind with things like love and joy and peace and fellowship and community and all those things, there's a nourishment happening within. That is going to translate physically. Wow. So to me, nutrition encompasses all of that, You can't separate them.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, another topic for another time, but when I look at people holistically on a care plan, I look at all those things because I cannot in good conscience
Mm-hmm.
not look at the whole person.
That makes total sense
Otherwise,
to me.
I'm not doing my job.
I appreciate that so much. And I think that's why I've resonated so well with you over the last 5 years that we've been working together, is because it hasn't just been a rubber stamp approach of this is what you need to do and these are all the steps. Right. But what you've given me are guidelines and parameters to live within, which I really appreciate, because it gave me the grace to feel like I wasn't adding up to get to where I needed to be. In other words, I was in a place where I felt like I was constantly falling short of the mark.
Yeah.
And that I never was able to do enough. I was always chasing numbers. I was always feeling like felt like I would go to the doctor and it was like a performance of, have you done this? Have you done this? And you've done this? And have you done this? And if I said no on any one of those things, why haven't you been doing that? And I felt judged, terribly judged.
Yes.
But I love this idea of you giving parameters to us as parents to live by, as opposed to these ironclad rules that we always have to own up to or live up to, because it gives us the space to breathe. And so I really appreciate everything that you were saying as far as, filling up your mind with the love and with the joy and the community and all of those things, because all of that matters too. And again, you can do everything right physically.
Yes.
But if you don't have that piece, then you've missed the boat almost entirely. And like you said, you can do anything you want to do physically. But if you don't have that piece, you may never get better.
Right.
So I think that's really, really wise to just know about and to say, to give people, I don't know, just some kind of answer to how do I start to navigate this? Yeah. So, wow, that's really good. I appreciate that.
Sure. Yeah.
Love talking with you. So I would say overall, from everything that you shared today, like 3 main pieces stood out to me and takeaways of what parents should do. Number 1, take a step back. Instead of looking at all of the data, all of the things that have ever been thrown at us our entire lives, look at the things that matter to us, but take a step back, and instead of getting down into the weeds of it all, look at it more of like a bigger picture.
Yes.
So that would be step 1. Step 2, as you said, model.
Yes.
So you talked about, when we were talking about healthy relationships with food, we were talking about allergies, and we were talking about how to navigate this as a parent, like how to make kids be in a place where they're thriving and they're growing and they're not, suffering and having all these meltdowns, and we don't know what's wrong with them, right?
Yes.
But being that model and using correct words and not the negative so much, but encouraging the positive. And then also demonstrating like what that looks like to them, so that they can then take those skills for the rest of their lives.
Right.
And then the third piece you mentioned was all about being right in your mental and your spiritual space, and making that a pivotal piece of your life, so that you can also be the best person that you can be, instead of feeling like I'm doing all of the rules right, but I don't have this other piece really ironed out and ready to go. But
and I think as a parent, I can tell you the kind of the big overarching piece in the midst of that is that just to know you're going to mess up.
Grace, right? Grace.
Right. Learning to show yourself and your spouse, show yourself and one another grace. Right. Because you're not going to get it all right.
Right.
And you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to have to back up and punt and go, oh no, that's not good. Like let's change course, and to be unafraid to change course, but also to give there's an environment of grace in your home where your children don't feel the constant rigidness and tension that comes from the parents, and that we can get too focused in certain areas, and then our kids pick up on it. We don't even know sometimes they pick up on it. They pick up on it. And to have the grace and humility to go, okay, I messed up. Let's change course. That was wrong. I'm going to
Right.
shift course and let's do this different scenario with our eating environment, or let's, okay, that food area, whatever that wasn't working well for us. Maybe it's, you're eating out a lot and you're going, man, like this isn't working well for our finances or for our family's health. So what can we do differently? And getting help, that's one of the things we help families with, is like making a plan on how to actually navigate the crazy schedules that a lot of us have, and without losing your mind, and giving your kids something that's somewhat nutritious.
Right.
And notice I said somewhat, right? As a nutritionist, I don't hold us to a perfect standard either.
Yeah.
Because
that's good to know.
It's because that's not how life works, right? Life is going to throw you a series of curveballs when you're a parent, and you have
Good at that.
you have to be ready to pivot and go that, you know what, this is okay today. Today we had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and a couple of carrot sticks, and you know what, everybody's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And they're going to survive.
Yeah.
And they're going to be nourished, and they're going to be happy.
Yeah.
And you know what, maybe tomorrow night we'll have this wonderful gourmet meal with a nice salad and this wonderful thing, right? And so knowing that you major in the majors, minor in the minors, show yourself and everyone else grace. And then when you create a framework of those boundaries, the boundaries you create are the ones where you go, you're free within the boundaries. Right. We're gonna really take care of the majors, but we're not going to micromanage all the little things. And then your kids will feel some freedom in that.
I love that.
And I think they're going to do better too.
And everybody can just relax a minute instead of feeling like we're all uptight and can't ever, achieve everything that we've set out to do.
Right.
No, I love that so much.
So so there you go. Nutrition and all the things that nourish, and how can we best be about looking at all the things, all the stuff, not just one piece. And then that encourages healthy kids, healthy families, and everybody thrives.
Love it. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Jeremy. You are just like a world of wealth and just knowledge and all the things. Wealth of knowledge. There we go. Wealth of knowledge. But I appreciate your insight. I appreciate you speaking to these topics that I feel like so many of us as moms and dads struggle with daily, and just feeling like we're never able to do enough. So thank you for being here.
Happy to do it.
I hope that you enjoyed this podcast. I would love for you, if you enjoyed it or feel like someone could really benefit from hearing this message, please share it with them. Please encourage them to listen to this so that they can also glean some of the wisdom, pick up on some of the tips, ways to just let themselves off the hook from feeling like they have to be perfect at it all the time. I really, really appreciate that. And if you want to follow us more, make sure that you click that follow button, and we'll be happy to give you more encouraging tips, more encouraging things to learn along the way. And we can't wait to hear what you do with it. So, yes, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You do it.